Hello and welcome to Last Week Tonight. Tonight we're diving headfirst into the turbulent waters of the American economy with renowned economist Richard Wolff. Buckle up, folks, because things are about to get real. Professor Wolff, a sharp mind known for his no-nonsense analysis of capitalism, offers a sobering perspective on the state of the American empire. He argues that we're witnessing the death throes of late-stage capitalism, a system that's eating itself alive. From the hallowed halls of academia to the gritty streets of America's struggling cities, Wolff's message is clear. The current economic system is unsustainable. It's a system where corporations reign supreme, exploiting workers, gutting social programs, and holding governments hostage. So, grab your thinking caps, America, because we're about to embark on a wild ride through the wreckage of late-stage capitalism. Imagine a monstrous snake slowly devouring its own tail. That's late-stage capitalism, folks. It's a system that prioritizes short-term profits over long-term sustainability, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Think about it. Corporations, driven by an insatiable hunger for profit, lobby for deregulation and tax cuts. They gobble up government resources like there's no tomorrow, leaving scraps for education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The result? A shrinking middle class, crumbling infrastructure, and a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. It's a system that's unsustainable, and Professor Wolff argues that we're seeing the cracks widen with each passing day. The irony is that this system designed to generate wealth is ultimately consuming the very structures that support it. It's like burning down your house to stay warm, effective in the short term, disastrous in the long run. America, the self-proclaimed leader of the free world, is no stranger to throwing its weight around. But lately that weight seems to be shifting, and not in a good way. From the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Iraq and now the plains of Ukraine, America's military adventures have yielded diminishing returns. These costly misadventures have drained the national coffers and exposed the limits of American power. Meanwhile, new players are emerging on the global stage, challenging America's dominance. China, with its booming economy and growing military might, is no longer content to play second fiddle. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are forging their own path, creating alternative economic systems that bypass the US dollar. The world is changing, and America, clinging to its outdated playbook, is struggling to keep up. Enter Donald Trump, a man whose understanding of economics is about as sophisticated as a toddler playing with building blocks. His approach to economic policy was unconventional, to say the least, and often seemed more like a series of impulsive decisions rather than a coherent strategy. His presidency was a masterclass in economic chaos, a whirlwind of ill-conceived policies that left experts scratching their heads. Economists and analysts were often left bewildered, trying to make sense of the erratic changes and unpredictable announcements. Tariffs, those trusty tools of economic warfare, were deployed with the precision of a drunken darts player. These tariffs were meant to protect American industries but often ended up hurting them instead, leading to higher costs for consumers and strained international relations. Tax cuts, primarily benefiting the wealthy and corporations, blew a hole in the national debt. These cuts were sold as a way to stimulate the economy, but the benefits were unevenly distributed, leaving the middle and lower classes with little to show for it. And deregulation, like a bull in a china shop, wreaked havoc on environmental protections and financial regulations. The rollback of these regulations was touted as a way to boost business, but it often came at the expense of public health and financial stability. The result? A sugar high of short-term gains followed by a crushing hangover of economic instability. The initial boost in economic activity was quickly overshadowed by the long-term consequences of these policies. It was a textbook example of prioritizing the interests of the few over the well-being of the many. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, and social unrest became more pronounced as people took to the streets to protest the growing inequality. Professor Wolff argues that Trump's policies were not just misguided, they were symptomatic of a deeper rot within the system. He suggests that these policies highlighted the flaws in a system that prioritizes profit over people, a system where short-term greed trumps long-term sustainability, and where the rules are rigged in favor of the wealthy and powerful. This systemic issue, according to Wolff, is what needs to be addressed if we are to create a more equitable and stable economic future. Section 5. The global currency shift, the dollar's waning dominance. For decades, the US dollar has reigned supreme as the world's reserve currency. It's been the bedrock of international trade and finance, the go-to currency for transactions across borders. It's the currency that greases the wheels of global commerce, facilitating everything from oil purchases to tech imports. The gold standard, or should we say the greenback standard, against which all others are measured. Its stability and reliability have made it the cornerstone of global finance. But hold on to your hats, folks, because the dollar's dominance is waning. The winds of change are blowing, and they are not in favor of the greenback. China, with its growing economic clout, is actively promoting its own currency, the yuan, as a viable alternative. The Chinese government is making strategic moves to internationalize the yuan. The BRICS nations are also flexing their collective muscles, seeking to reduce their dependency on the US dollar. Establishing their own development bank is just one of the steps they are taking to create a more balanced global financial system. They are also exploring alternative payment systems that bypass the US-dominated SWIFT system, aiming for greater financial independence. This shift away from the dollar has major implications for the American empire. It signals a potential decline in U.S. economic hegemony. It undermines America's ability to exert economic influence on the global stage, weakening its geopolitical power. And it threatens its ability to finance its massive debts, which have been ballooning over the years. The party, it seems, is coming to an end for the U.S. dollar. The era of unchallenged dollar dominance is drawing to a close. The question is, what will replace it? Will it be the yuan, a basket of currencies, or something entirely new? And what role will America play in a world where its currency is no longer king? The answers to these questions will shape the future of global finance. Section 6. Echoes of Fascism, Corporate Power, and the Trump Administration. This section delves into the intricate and often unsettling relationship between corporate power and political governance in the United States, particularly under the Trump administration. Now, before you dismiss this as the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist in a tinfoil hat, hear us out. The connections we are about to explore are grounded in historical context and current events. Professor Wolff sees some disturbing parallels between current U.S. policies and the rise of fascism in the 20th century. His analysis is based on years of research and a deep understanding of political and economic systems. Think about it, the merging of corporate and government power, where the lines between business interests and political decisions become increasingly blurred. The demonization of immigrants and minorities, the suppression of dissent, and the use of state power to silence opposition, and the erosion of democratic norms. Sound familiar? These are not just abstract concepts but real issues affecting the lives of everyday Americans. Trump, with his cozy relationships with billionaire oligarchs and his open disdain for democratic institutions, embodied this dangerous trend. His administration was a revolving door for corporate lobbyists and CEOs who had unprecedented access to the corridors of power. These individuals used their influence to shape policies that enriched themselves at the expense of the American people, often with little to no accountability. Who used their influence to enrich themselves at the expense of the American people. This has led to growing inequality and social unrest. This is not to say that America has become a fascist state. However, the warning signs are there, and they are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. But the warning signs are there, and it's crucial to recognize them before it's too late. And it's crucial to recognize the dangers of unchecked corporate power and the erosion of democratic values. We must remain vigilant and proactive in defending our democratic institutions and the erosion of democratic values. The future of our democracy depends on it. Section 7. A future on the brink: inequality, instability, and the potential for backlash. So, what does the future hold for America, a nation grappling with late-stage capitalism, declining global influence, and the ghosts of fascism? Professor Wolff paints a bleak picture, but one that's not without a glimmer of hope. He argues that the current trajectory of widening inequality, economic instability, and environmental degradation is unsustainable. The social fabric of America is fraying, and the potential for social unrest is growing. The dismantling of social programs, the erosion of workers' rights, and the relentless assault on the environment are creating a perfect storm of discontent. People are fed up, and they're starting to demand change. This growing discontent, while concerning, also presents an opportunity. It's a chance to reimagine the American dream, to create a more just and equitable society that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. Section 8. A glimmer of hope. The rise of progressive movements. Amidst the doom and gloom, there's a flicker of light. Across America, progressive movements are gaining momentum, challenging the status quo and demanding a better future. From the fight for economic justice to the movement for racial equality, people are rising up to demand change. They're organizing, mobilizing, and making their voices heard. These movements are diverse and decentralized, but they share a common goal: to create a more just and equitable society. They're fighting for a living wage, affordable health care, quality education, and a sustainable future. These movements offer a glimmer of hope in these uncertain times. They remind us that change is possible, that ordinary people have the power to shape their own destiny. Section 9. Conclusion. Navigating the uncharted waters of a changing world. The American empire is at a crossroads. The old order is crumbling, and the future remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: the status quo is unsustainable. Professor Wolff's analysis of late-stage capitalism is a wake-up call. It's a call to confront the systemic problems that plague our society and to chart a new course. The challenges ahead are daunting, but they're not insurmountable. By embracing progressive values, investing in our people and our planet, and revitalizing our democracy, we can create a more just and equitable future for all. So let's roll up our sleeves, America. The time for complacency is over. The future is ours to shape. Let's get to work.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.